Welcome to FX Options University, recorded live at the International Securities Exchange, the world's largest equity options exchange. Join the industry's top trading professionals as they provide insight and strategies for trading in the currency markets using FX options. FX options are a low-risk alternative to hedging currency moves in any market condition.
Let's start taking some other questions. I don't know if you have any view on, do you see any that are changing trends now? Because obviously, I think some folks are saying, how can I take advantage of this now? Start looking at one of the or two of the pairs that you might see a shift on. Because Vinod says, what do you think of the Aussie, the euro, and the British pound in relation to the dollar? Do you have any clue on any of those, if there's momentum change occurring?
I don't have my charts pulled up here. I haven't really been trading the Forex much the last couple of weeks, so I've been kind of creating a product and getting ready to launch that here the last couple of weeks, so I haven't traded as much the last couple of weeks. But in addition to what we were seeing here on this earlier chart, where you can see like this momentum shift here,
right.
This kind of suggests that as it's coming into this, we're seeing this shift in momentum at a support zone where if this forms a third low, pulls back up into this upper zone here, that does have the potential for a stronger reversal on this EUI here. I'll pull up some charts here just to give me a second.
That's a good point, Toni, because everyone in the world seems to be very, very negative on the U.S. dollar, especially in the last day or two. In fact, you have it on your chart there that the dollar made a new low. But you're sort of thinking, based on pace, that the decline isn't as great as it was, and it might not be the greatest time to be short here, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you're coming into quite a lot of support in here from these previous lows, and a lot of times you really only get like a two-wave correction before a move can attempt to reverse. So just looking at this time frame alone, there's not really a strong short pattern forming on this chart.
Right. I appreciate it. I mean, that's contrary to almost any media source that you take a look at in the last 2 or 3 weeks, especially after yesterday when the dollar, you could see that gap. Everybody's jumping aboard, but today it actually went nowhere. So on that sort of, it leads to your point.
Yeah, because you have this slightly lower low in here, if it hadn't done that, then it could have formed more of this longer range and broken more sharply lower. When you do have a slightly lower low, it can be a little bit more up in the air. It's not necessarily going to guarantee a strong breakdown as it would if it had held this previous low. So if this had bounced here and then formed even a slightly higher high or a slightly higher low, it would have had more risk to it, actually. So the fact that it made that lower low actually can, in many cases, reduce that risk. I want to point out something with these strategies and looking at the momentum shifts here is that they do apply to every securities. I mean, Steve's known me for quite some time, and I trade a lot of different things. So when I'm working on a lot of other projects, I'm focusing on scalping the index futures. So that's what I've been doing recently. But you can also use them no matter what time frame you're looking on. You can look at this on this weekly time frame or larger daily time frame, but you can use these same strategies to drop down and trade the intraday charts of the EUI as well.
Question from Bing. He asks, do you look mostly at daily charts?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, a lot of it depends upon, what I'm doing in the market at the time. I might be focusing upon day trading, in which case I'm focusing upon looking at primarily 5-minute charts to give me my main setups, but I'm using the 15-minute and the 60-minute and the daily to give me an idea of where a pattern or a strategy is forming in a larger trend move. If I'm using a daily as my primary time frame, let's say I'm looking at correction on a daily time frame into, say, a 20-period moving average or something, then I'm also going to be paying attention to what's going on the weekly and the monthly time frame and dropping down to the smaller intraday time frame. So my main strategy might be on a daily time frame, but I'm dropping down and using 15-minute, 60-minute charts to actually time my entries and time my exits, and I'm using those larger weekly and monthly time frames to give me an idea of where are the major support and resistance levels, and to help me have a better feel for what my target levels might be.
Understood. Question from Gordon, Tony, and he says, do you like to play spreads? Do you like vertical spreads? Do you look at, trading calendar spreads, or do you just like looking at a single-legged option?
I don't get fancy. I usually just stick to the basics. I know there's a lot of different strategies out there that you can use for trading options, but really I've never taken the time to learn a lot of them. I have a good feel for where the market's going to go and how long it's going to take to get there. So I'm just playing the outright option as opposed to doing a lot of the more fancy things that you guys are probably used to trading.
It doesn't, yeah, and one thing I always see, Tony, is that just because they're fancy, intricate, doesn't make them better, and I try to stress that.
That's true. I know. I mean, that's the same concept you use with indicators, right? I mean, there's so many indicators out there. I don't know if people can even count how many indicators there are out there. You don't need them, If you're able to read the price action and have a good idea of how long it's going to take for certain things to hit certain price levels, then that's really the most important thing. And if you're looking at this, a major thing with options is you have to know how long it's going to take before something hits a support or resistance level or hits your target level. And that's where this pace comes into play, because you can have a good feel for whether it's going to hit that target level within a matter of days, or if it's going to take a couple of weeks to hit that zone, and then you can thus take the correct one based upon that.
Very interesting. Every time you come back, I learn something new, Tony. It's great. Thank you. Another question, and the question is, could you talk about your cup concept once again?
Oh, yeah, that was just basically a typical cup with handle pattern. It's a core pattern that a lot of traders are familiar with. If you look it up, you're going to have a zillion websites. They're going to show you what a cup with handle pattern is. I don't quite trade them the same way you'll see a lot of people teach them, because I drop down to smaller time frames and use entries. But here's an example of it here, where basically you're just looking for some shift in momentum. Usually you'll have a strong momentum move, such as this sharp rally here, and then you'll have a series of either slightly higher highs for an upside down or reverse cup with handle, or slightly lower lows for an example of a cup with handle at lows. And then the momentum will start to pick up coming off of that high or that low, and then it will form the cup. Within this cup itself, you usually want to see 2 or 3 waves of directional movement opposite that strong move into that. So in this example, there's two legs higher, 1, 2. So that's really common. And if you drop down to the smaller time frames, you want to then look for some change in momentum within that as well. Usually on volume, if you have something that can show you volume, you'll see volume dropping off as that handle is forming, and that's indicating that there's not really a lot of interest in taking that position heading in the direction that it's trying to push, and so hence it's more likely to break as a continuation of that previous move. So it's just a very core cup with handle strategy.
Thanks.
Thank you for participating in this week's session. Please join us again next week. Get trading ideas, exchange rates, webinars, news, and commentary. Visit www.fxoptions.com. ISE FX options can be easily traded through all options-enabled brokerage accounts. These exchange-listed securities are cash-settled in U.S. dollars and have a European-style exercise.